If there is a message for us today, I believe it is to learn to live from our heart in love. These short lessons, hopefully, will help to inspire you to live with purpose, love passionately, and inspire others. We are the change agent our world needs. I'm Helen Toews. Step into the river today with me to explore the mysteries of God. They are not hidden from us, but for us to discover. As well. So yeah, you know what? This really exciting times, and we're finding in our as you know, we have a God Squad that it just sort of came about organically, and it's a sort of one of those things that sprung out of our Tuesday meetings when the restrictions hit in Canada, and particularly in Winnipeg. We weren't meeting there were sometimes 20 of us, and so things shifted, but there were a few of us that continued to meet and started to learn together how to form intentions and how to use what we're learning to be really an effective way to it is a form of prayer. I have to say that I think our lives are a form of prayer, but in this modality of prayer that we call intention, we are actually learning a lot as we go. So even from the time where I taught it on Heart of the Bride, and I actually taught it when we had Nancy Cohen here a number of years ago now, 3 or 4 years ago. But we're shifting into something that is really being I'm calling it refined and honed, as it were, to be a really effective way to pray. And I just want to add things to what you probably already know, but I'm hoping that what will happen after tonight is things will settle in your heart in a greater understanding, so that using the term intention will be solid with you, and your ability to operate in it will be strong. And if you want to gather a group, which is really powerful to do, then I hope you'll be encouraged to do that you'll say, you know what, this is something that I'd like to either join or do or be with, and so we'll see. I like anything that I've been teaching. I am totally willing to help you as much as I can to get established. I can't join everybody's groups because then I just, you know, you can't be everywhere, right? But I certainly
Cat?
I know, Pat, I know. But what I can do is support you, and we can Zoom together, answer questions, because I think it's important enough to give time to. All right. So having said all that, I'm going to pull up my notes here so I don't forget anything, and I don't know why they're not pulling up, but here we go. And Kathy, if there's a hand that goes up, because I'm using notes so that I, first of all, stay on task and don't go chasing too many rabbits. If there's a hand, please interrupt me. And if there's anything in the chat, you're not interrupting me. That's just how organic we'll go with this. That'd be great. Everybody knows Kathy, so when her voice speaks, she is co-hosting. All right, so just in review, intention is a modality of prayer that's based on Lynn McTaggart's book, The Power of Eight. So we recommend it as reading it as it's based on a scientific study of intention that is measurable. All right, this book reports on the power of our thoughts. We also did a session called The Power of Thought, and it's on the website if that's something that interests you. And we talk about intention in that as well. So these are other aids that are available for you. So, and it shows, this book shows that there's no distance in the spirit. We know that, and that we can send our thoughts and prayers and to be effective at great distances. People don't have to be in the room. And we're finding how that quantum entanglement is really, truly a real thing, and we can see the effects of it. In our groups, we took the principle of the study and modified the processes. We put the activation in a framework that we as followers of Christ have a language to understand. I am consciously trying not to use the term Christians, because it goes into too many denominations and ways of thinking and excuse me, customs and that. I have nothing against that, but I like the term Christ consciousness or Christ followers, because if we call ourselves, I feel if I call myself a Christian, I truly want to be one that that emanates and does what Christ has challenged and called us to do. So we are followers of Christ. What we are learning in actual practice is that although the power of 8 is an outstanding principle, learning the power of intention really transcends this in groups. And it's very important with us as individuals as well. So intention is not just a modality that we do as a group, but we're learning to walk intentionally, using the purposefully setting our mind, setting our consciousness to the things that we're learning that intention does and how it operates in our life. So we really feel we have a responsibility and a mandate as sons to live as Christ modeled. When he ascended, he gave us authority and command to go and do what he did here on earth. I believe we are living in the most outstanding time in history, and it's exciting. We are actually living out of that book of Daniel in Daniel 12, where the Lord says, shut up the words and seal the book even to the time of the end. And then he describes the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Well, if there ever was a time that knowledge is being increased, it's now. And the internet is almost both a blessing and a curse. I like to see the blessing side the most for it. Habakkuk 2 says, for the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. So before we look at how the how-tos of starting a God Squad or an intention group, let's look at what we need to be responsible for as individuals in the group. Okay, so we all have a personal responsibility to our lives in our daily walk, and some of us are just learning some of the most interesting ways to purposefully understand the modality of prayer, and this modality of prayer. First of all, I want to say the word intention, when I use it, is not a verb. It's not an action. It's a finished result as we see it. It's a noun. So here's what's been happening. We will often say, will you intend with me for, like, finding, going on vacation, healing my heart, I need money, whatever it is. Will you intend with me for that? Or we will say, I'm intending with you or for you. I have been doing that myself. And I realize that my thinking is different than the words I'm speaking. Intending is all we've done using the word intend. Like when you say, will you intend with me for healing, for instance, all me, I'm not pointing any fingers, that I'm not responsible for myself, because I've been exactly in that place. I'm making a course correction for myself here. When we say it that way, we actually just exchange the word prayer for intend. Like we would say, will you pray with me for whatever? But now we're saying, will you intend with me for, and thinking that we know what to do with that. If you were on the classes where we talked about the power of thought and powers of, power of prayer, we learned that in John 16, 23, 24, we are all familiar with this. It says, whatsoever you ask the Father in my name, he will give it to you. Hitherto you've asked nothing in my name. Ask and you will receive, and your joy will be made full. Then we looked at the original in the Aramaic, because since we found the Nag Hammadi library and the Dead Sea Scrolls and the ancient documents that have the original from our edited biblical texts, this original Aramaic of John 16, 23, 24 says, all things that you ask straightly, directly from inside my name, you will be given. So far, you have not done this. Ask without hidden motive and be surrounded by your answer. Be enveloped by your desire, that your gladness be made full. Well, that's a whole lot more of the how-tos than the first one that we read, isn't it? So we learned that there are some how-tos to ask so you'll receive, that your joy will be made full. And we're going to unpack that a little bit. What we have learned about prayer, when we see the scripture, that it's clear when we pray, we need to be able to see the end result and be able to embrace it as though we were already living it. Prayer is not supposed to be vague. It carries a responsibility. Prayer, in fact, is to be a finished product of your desire. And when you can see it clearly and feel it, have emotion surrounding it, and actually give thanks for it as though it's already a completed fact and belongs to you, that is prayer. And I know I said a lot of things really fast there. But prayer, we're to pray not for something, but from something, from what we're believing for, from the vision of what we see as what we're believing for. And this is also the definition of intention. And intention is not vague. It has exactly the same requirement. So, is there a question?
Yeah, Gina.
Okay.
Helen, could you just go through John 16?
Yeah.
In the original, like really slowly. I think it bypassed us.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, because it's so rich and it's so beautiful that it's really nice to if it can just sit deep in our heart and we can really ponder it for a sec.
Okay.
Like, you can just go through it a little bit slower. That would be great.
Okay. It says, all things that you ask straightly, directly from inside my name, you will be given. So far, you have not done this. And we learned that from inside his name means that we understand that we stand in Yod, He, Vav, He. That we are in that place, not just tacking on in the name of Jesus. Okay. And we're to ask, it says, ask without hidden motive, be surrounded by your answer, be enveloped by your desire, that your gladness be made full. So when you ask without a hidden motive, you're not judging and your ego's not in there. When you're surrounded by your answer, you see, you feel, you touch, your spiritual senses surround you by being in the place. This is in your thinking, in your mind, and you feel as though you're already have the answer. For instance, praying for healing, you can feel that you already are healed and whole. You can see yourself, if it was an injury to your leg, you can see yourself without pain and running. We have a responsibility when we to allow it to be us to be surrounded by the answer that we're praying to pray from it rather than, because when you pray from it, it comes into the now, it comes now. And when we are enveloped by that desire, it becomes our truth. So we feel it, we see it, we hear it at a whole different level. And then it says that your gladness be made full. So in that format, which is our intention format that we'll talk about, we get to the place of being grateful and have such true gratitude for what it is that we're believing for. Does that help any little? Okay. Thanks, Gina. All right. So where's intention in the Bible? You know, when you start talking about or exploring this subject, you start finding it all over the place in Old and New Testaments. So how about looking at Mary, the mother, the Son of God? She lived intentionally and she had an intention. And here's how it came about. Because 2,000 years ago plus, at the time of Christ, the culture in the Middle East among the Hebrews was they would go to temple, they would follow rituals as well as customs of the day. All the young girls at that time had heard the scriptures in Isaiah that said, a virgin will conceive and bear a child. They will call his name Emmanuel. So many young girls at that time would have had the hope and the vision to be the chosen of God. They'd lived with the image of that and would live their life as though it would be true. Mary was one that would have been hugely influenced at this time. There were many hints in scriptures that they learned. They learned where the Messiah would come from the house of David. They knew that his life, would follow his lineage according to the Tanakh and other prophetic scriptures. They knew how this child will live, even with the specifics to his death. So in the story, Angel Gabriel entered into Mary's house and he said to her, you are highly favored by the Lord is with you. You will become pregnant, give birth to a son, the Son of the Most High, and he will be a king of Jacob's family, and there will be no end to his kingdom. Now, Mary would have known all that about the child that he said you will become pregnant with. Mary asked how. She didn't doubt it. What she didn't know was how it could happen. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Red Tent. If you've never seen it, it's a beautiful, beautiful movie. It's a wonderful book too. And it's a story of the culture of the time where women were segregated from men, often for different reasons. And generally it followed their cycles. And the women of that time would share their lives with each other and teach the younger the ways of women. And they would share information and understanding and folklore. And Mary would have had knowledge of conceiving. But when the angel said she was going to conceive, she was a little confused because the only thing she knew, and the only thing that anyone knew, is that only a man had that a man had to be involved, right? So Gabriel took her to a place of understanding her I am, the divine essence of her being. She knew the natural, but now she would experience the unlimited power of I am, because nothing is impossible with God. And he explained how an overshadowing to natural laws, when it's received as truth greater than the natural circumstances, becomes supernatural. It shows us that there is a bringing forth that we would call a miracle, but with God, all things are possible. Mary was able to enter into that because she had formed an intention in her life that of what was possible, that she would be that virgin that would bear this child. So Mary's song of praise, we call it the Magnificat. In Luke 1, Mary speaks out, and it's much longer than I'm going to share, but she says, my soul magnifies the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God, my Savior, for he has looked upon the humble estate of his servant. For behold, from now on generations shall call me blessed, for he who is mighty has done great things for me. Mary lived in the intention, the reality of something so much bigger than herself or her natural culture, and believed beyond understanding because she trusted her God. Intention is often that amazing. Learning to live from the answer seems to be our biggest problem at times, because basically we've been doing it in the reverse for so long. We've been praying for something instead of learning to live from the answer. So if I said to you to simply change the language, this might help you. Now, I actually woke up with this at 4 o'clock this morning. The Lord said, use this term. Will you intend with me that? And then describe the intention. Will you intend with me that? So if I was, if I'm going to just use our God Squad, because we have a lot of fun. We're really growing in this exact principle. Instead of saying, let's form an intention, or let's intend for something. My question is going to challenge us to say, will you intend with me that? And then I'm going to have a responsibility to finish that sentence. What is it that I am needing to describe as my intention? That'll unpack to a little bit more. This question does not say intend with me for something. It says intend with me that this will happen. Or actually, okay. When you fill in the intention as a reality, the answer you're believing for it changes drastically. For instance, this is what we must change. If I said, will you intend with me for my husband to be healed from the flu? That sentence itself says, my husband has a flu and has to be healed. And all of that is language that goes to a future event. Our intention modality takes the same and puts it into the place of the wish fulfilled. We learn to see the intention from the answer so that we are surrounded by your answer, not the problem. So here's what I would say. Will you intend with me that my husband is completely free from all flu symptoms, is strong, and has no lingering effects? That would be an intention that God, when you release that to God, he has something to work with in the now, because what we're intending for is a present tense. It's not for something to happen in the future. So a person who's asking the help has an intention that is understood simply, and in the present tense, it becomes very clear. And this brings the reality into the present that is now, okay? We know this scripture. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That is actually a great intention statement. Faith is the substance of things hoped for the evidence of things not seen. It's all in the now. It's not something that is that may or may not happen. It is substance. Forming an intention can work. We will require you to believe for a situation, and not when you form an intention, that formation will require you to believe for the situation, not rely on others or God to do what we have been commissioned to do. Jesus gave us authority, power, and he says, We can do whatever he did. It's easy to throw a prayer out asking God to do something for you. The problem is he actually doesn't say that is what to do and how to do it. In the Aramaic, we just read it, and I'll just say it once more. The process is clear. Ask from inside his name without hidden motive. Don't try to figure out how the answer is going to come. Get yourself out of the process. Be surrounded by your answer, enveloped in your desire, that your desire in gratefulness be fulfilled. Your intention will require this, whether you're setting it for yourself or it's in a small group. To have an intention, we need to walk into it and live it for our own lives or for others. We have to, when we set an intention, we need to see it as real in our own life purposefully, and we need to do the same for others. When we do that, we are really effective. Habakkuk 2 says, I will stand at my watch, station myself on the ramparts. A rampart is a high place on the castle wall that looks over the land to see whatever there is to see, enemies or sheep, whatever. You can see great distances. I will look to see what he will say to me. What answer am I to give this complaint? Then the Lord replied, write down the revelation. That's the intention. Make it plain on tablets so that a herald, somebody that decrees and declares, can run with it. For the revelation waits, that intention waits for an appointed time. It speaks of the end and it will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and not delay. Intention requires us to take a responsibility for the intention itself, for the vision. Sometimes it takes time, other times it has immediate results. Whether it's for ourselves or another, the intention has to have the understanding of the revelation being true. And I've asked Giselle, she's part of our God Squad. This has been such exciting weeks for us, just sharing in her excitement. And I want to share her testimony to us over the last few weeks and what happened, because it is an example of this ability to set an intention and let God do the work in the middle of it. So here's the thing. Giselle and her husband decided to move from a very beautiful condo. They love the simplicity of condo living, but they felt it was time they wanted to live in a house again. So Giselle tells us she took the time to see herself in her desire. Here, her vision was very specific. She saw a beautiful home in a nearby community. She said explicitly where she wanted to live, or they wanted to live. They were actually in agreement with this. She saw a bungalow. She saw 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. She saw this finished basement with a man cave, media room, and everything in place. The kitchen, the living, the dining room. She could just envision the whole thing. A garage big enough to have a workshop. When she described it, it was so clear in her mind. It was as though they were already living there. So, and we had a meeting last night. She said, I went to sleep in that place. Isn't that lovely? She had this vision, this intention for what she desired, and she fell asleep in it. When she described it, it was so clear in her mind. It was as though they were living there, and that was released to the Lord. No details as to how to do it, when it needed to be done, what the process was. She just saw them living in that place. Not a week went by, but her daughter, who lived in the town that they wanted to live in, spoke with someone in the town who's selling a house privately. It wasn't even on the market. The house had everything they were looking for and more. beautiful floors, sunny large windows, located in a small cove that, get this, was condo style living, which means they now have the best of both worlds. They have the home, everything that she's been sleeping in for the last couple of weeks. And this home has snow removal, yard work, everything would be done for them. You see, God knew all the details and how to get it to them. Then, I mean, you think that's exciting. Then the next week, they put their condo for sale. It sold in 4 days. Intention is powerful. Do you see the difference of praying for something than praying from something? When you position yourself into the desire of what you are believing for, faith becomes the substance of what you're hoping for. When you release that to God to work out, that is the most powerful thing we can do. This the same, excuse me, what is the difference now between when you have an intention for yourself or for another? See, Giselle did that on her own. She didn't come to us and say, I need you to do an intention with me or anything like that. She is living out of the principles. She is living purposefully out of how she knows God works through this power of intention. So the same principle applies whether it's for you or for another person. And the situation must be as real for you, like moving into the home, that it is for a person that you're believing, that you have an intention set for. Whatever the intention we need to see has to be created to intend it. Jesus is our model. He said, I only do what I see the Father do. He went often, it says he went up into the mountain to pray. Now, there were no mountains where he was praying. So we know that means he went dimensionally into a private place. He went into a closet and shut himself away. He regularly took time to see what the Father was doing. And when we live from that place, the results will be the same as he modeled. So I'm just going to, these are our most current intentions. We received a request yesterday for a young doctor. He's a friend of our friend's son. He's a family man, and he was being affected emotionally and professionally by the situation that many are in right now, that is causing division and disruption in our lives. When we read the request, the mom shared the note that this young man had written. The son was very depressed. It showed up in the note. He felt hopeless to the point of speaking death to his own life. When we read, I'm not reading you the content out of respect, but when we read that, we felt the spirit of death on the child. Of course, he's somebody's child, on this young man. He's a doctor. He is a beautiful young man with new baby. So how do you deal with that? Well, it's our responsibility, first of all, not to judge, not to say this is right, this is wrong. This is just what it is. He's depressed, hopeless, speaking death. That is what it is. God knows the details. It's not up to us to figure out what we would do. That would be our ego telling us it should be this way or that way. So we had to answer for ourselves. Can we love this young man enough to see him as our own, see him completely delivered? Could we emotionally and gratefully see him living above the situations and free from what was oppressing him to the point of destruction? So we spent time and we discussed it. So we're learning together that when last night there was just 5 of us, that we can rest in the intention. We spent time then seeing the answer and releasing it into the quantum reality where all things are already complete. We were able to release it completely to Father, who knows how to bring it to pass. We wrote the vision. We made it clear. We sat with it in our hearts. We took it dimensionally into Father's heart and released it to him, not once telling God what to do, not once telling him what we thought about it, but just sharing in love the pain and how we saw this young man free. When we shared our time after holding this young man in our hearts for deliverance, the most amazing things were that we all saw light come and be embraced by him with a sense that this was not going to take a long time. Of course, there's more, but in essence, this is what happened. Sometimes our heart's desire is larger than our current ability to see an intention when we need to. If something is broken, can we see the restoration? That is our challenge. It is the ability to write the vision clearly, nothing broken, nothing missing, that is the prerequisite to being released into the heart of God to be fulfilled. When we do that, when we pray from the answer, when we form our intention into that place, we can release it into the heart of God to be fulfilled. So I realize that I'm separating components here that we haven't covered before, as in intending for ourselves versus each other's. But I think they're really important aspects when we deal with intentions. And I wanted to share the fact of how important we are learning that it is to live intentionally with purpose, so that everything doesn't, that we then start to live naturally supernatural. Do you know that? I mean, Giselle is she says, I feel like I'm in another world. Things were happening just so organically because, and she didn't have control of it. All she did was rest in the reality of something being real, and she could rest, totally sleep in the vision. That's where we need to get to. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful example. When your intention is for yourself, it requires you to be really honest, because if you can't feel the emotions of the wish fulfilled, you may have to examine your life and say, Father, why is that? Sometimes there are things that get in the way, like unforgiveness, judgment, egos, control, etc. And really, it's the same checklist that we need to have when we're attending for others as well. Because what we want is a pure intention, a simple intention. In Habakkuk, it says, write it simply so you can run with it. Well, you can't run as easily with a paragraph as you can with a 2-point sentence. So think about that. We are living far below our potential if we don't. Every day we have the opportunity to command the morning, to set in place the miraculous and step into it. We're to set our mind on things above, not on things of the earth. Turn the news off if you have to. If you have things that take your time, like Facebook or games, if you allow people to randomly create be time wasters for you, stop it. Just stop it. I know it's hard, but right now, until we transcend the 24 hours we're given in natural times, we're going to just have to shift some things around. To live our life with intention, we need to live purposefully. I love the intention process with others because it's so encouraging, and the frequency of the time. Sorry. Now, and now I'm hoping you can see we can use the word intending for the intention so much better, so much greater. The intending time for the intention is fun to share because we truly ascend into the heart of God and he shows us what he's doing. So often we come to the same place in that intention time where we rest in the finished intention, where we have a clear intention and we're able to live from the place of it being done, actually grounds us. It anchors our faith into substance of what we're hoping for. It's like the mind movie principle. Seeing the action of the situation is really having it accomplished. So I'm going to stop right here, and then we're going to talk about the mechanics of what does a God squad look like and that. But I want to ask if you have any thoughts, comments, questions to what I have just said. Because what I've tried to share is really our key to the supernatural here.
Go ahead, Linda. I see that. Oh, you're muted though. And then Jacqueline has a question after.
So what would be the difference between intention, living intentionally 24/7, and being in union with the Trinity?
We are always in union with the Trinity because I am. He is in us. What we do is sometimes we forget that we are.
Yes.
Like that really is our reality. We are always the I am. When we live out of intention, it's for specific things in our life that we are believing for. When we're defining the substance of things hoped for.
Okay, I got it. I just got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Awesome.
That was good. That was good.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jacqueline, then Susan and Brenda.
Thank you. Hi, Helen. I love what you said when I believe you were describing once the intention is stated and the group is together in silence. You said, together we ascend into the heart of God. Is that what you're referring to? Was that the moment?
100%. That's what we do. Okay, so the mechanics of establishing an intention with a group is to write the intention clearly. What we do is we don't move ahead until we as a group agree and understand what it is that what we've written down. So because and it's just sort of a personal thing for me, but I think we're all in agreement with it in the group that we want agreement. We want to be 100% together. And so everybody has a voice. Everybody has, like, I don't understand, what do you mean? And sometimes, because it's also part of our growing. And so after you write the intention, then we just position ourselves just quietly in his heart. We know we're already there, but we position ourselves consciously on purpose there. Then we read the intention, whoever it is that there's no one person all the time that does it. Then we will read that intention, and then we will just go into that place in peace and in quiet and hold that intention together. And we know that we're in each other's heart as well as the heart of the Lord. So what happens is actually we ascend, which is a term that we all understand. And that's the best one I can think of, is dimensionally, we take that into wherever the heart of the Lord leads us. And often he will show us the same thing in a different way of how he's working on what it is that we have the intention written for. Sometimes they're very different. We just put it all together, but it's really a special time. We generally hold the intention for 10 minutes, sometimes less, but 10 minutes. And halfway through, we'll read the intention again. Sometimes that helps us to focus, and sometimes it's just totally not needed. But we just to read it again. It's a sort of a press refresh, and we continue on. Then after the 10 minutes, we read it for the final time and release it with gratitude, knowing that the only place now that this can be fulfilled is in Yahweh, in Yod He Vav He, in the Father's heart. We release it completely and totally there. And then we come back together and we share what it is that he's showing us. So that is how we do it. Does that help?
Thank you. Yes, definitely. Thank you so much.
Okay, Brenda.
Oh, it is Susan.
And then, Susan first? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
Okay. I actually pressed right the first time, but all right, we had been doing this for about a year and a half, 4 of us. And when you intend for something, and I'll just give a specific, it was for my daughter-in-law who was 40 at the time, to have a baby, and she had IVF. She got pregnant and she lost it at 5 weeks. So we had intended that, and we had seen her and my son walking down the road with this child between them. Anyhow, she got pregnant again at 44 and lost the baby at 9 weeks. Would you take that as a sign that maybe this, I hate to say it this way, but this is honestly how I feel. This is the way it is. Like we don't, not to do this again for her, like for them. You know what I mean? Like we intend and we release, right? And so you don't keep harping on God. Oh God, remember we said this yesterday, kind of thing. So I that's what I don't understand. I know there is a God will over all of this. Okay. And that was their heart's desire and mine. So I don't know. So do you do it again? Like, do you intend again for that same thing?
What we want to do in an intention is to do what Jesus did, and that is to go up into the mountain and see what the Father's doing. So the only person who can really answer that question is you. It's not a general, this is how things are always done. I really believe that you, first of all, I know you very well, and I know that you hear from God. That he would answer that, and he's the one that is the best to answer that. The second thing then this is just personal for where I am right now in the learning, is what is the desire of the couple?
Well, it is to have, they were devastated.
Sure.
And I, of course, told them I was praying and da.
I know.
Devastated. Yeah. It was like, it happened once, they got over it. Okay, we can't have kids. Okay. And then this happened again. Just, they weren't even, and they were elated and then crushed again, So, yeah.
It's so heartbreaking.
It is. It is. Yeah. So anyhow, I guess that's what I was asking about intentions, like just kind of, I know we release it, and so, okay, I'll, it's so hard though, when you want something so badly to hear, like, I know I hear from God, but I'd be better hearing from God in a big group, because then your mind and your emotions and your wants don't get involved. But when I'm on my own, so maybe I'll meet with this group again and see what they say too.
Well, the other thing that you have a lot of tools in your toolbox, and the group could ascend together and ask the Lord what to show you, and He either will or He won't. I mean, but I do know He's faithful to your heart as a mom and grandma, and He's faithful. He's true. You know, Mary spent many years believing a virgin can have a child, and that whole thing was bigger than, it's still bigger than me. But the one thing we do know from those examples is nothing is impossible with God. And I don't know how not to believe for a miracle, to be honest. I don't know how not to be, but I don't know how to say this is that in every situation or any situation until I take it to Him. But one of the greatest gifts that we have, He says to us, come up here, let me show you things to come.
Oh, I'm excited about that. Okay, we'll get together, right, Pat? And we will ascend together again on some of these things that we've been, yeah, great. That excites me. Okay.
Awesome. Okay, Brenda. Am I in the right order, Kathy? Brenda?
Yep.
Okay. Brenda, where are you? There you are.
Okay. Hey, yeah, I'll try to explain what I'm trying to get. Okay, first of all, I would love to be in anybody's group anywhere in the whole world if they would let me in. I'd love to be in a group. I don't have anyone that I know that even talks like this or thinks like this, or I know all you guys are up above me in Canada. Yay. I'm happy about that. But here I am down here. And anyways, my question is that I've tried this because I started with did you do the last one like in October, or the one intention one? I had heard that one. That was maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And I really thought, wow, this is amazing. So on my own, I would try to do it. But my struggle was that when I would try it and I would fail and fail and fail and fail, then I would say, well, wait, am I to heal myself? Or, I mean, Father, you're the healer. So I'd give up and say, well, you're the healer, so you do it. I'd go back and forth. You know what I mean? I'd say, well, wait, I'm trying so hard. It's not working. I've been dizzy. I fell on my head 4 years ago. I've been dizzy for 4 years, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it. And so so I blame myself, but I'm not doing it right. And then I quit. You know what I mean?
Okay, first of all, what time zone are you in, Brenda?
Central.
You're in Central? Okay. Yeah, I think I'll put anybody who wants to be in groups into, so I know what time zones people are in. I hear your situation and I totally feel for you. I totally feel for you. What is the thing what is your concern?
Well, my concern is that every time I try to go with the intention, I get stuck on thinking that this is all about me trying to get healed, and it's all up to me to do it. And when I'm saying, but God, you're the God that healeth thee, can you help me out? I haven't gotten healed. I mean, I struggle with it daily, and I guess I'm missing how to do it, or I'm stuck. So I guess I'm stuck.
You're stuck. Okay. Well, I know a happy face that I'm going to ask to answer that for you. And that's Gina. She doesn't have her hand up, but I'm going to ask Gina to answer that
Well, I knew that was coming. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's well, first of all, I'll just say that, you know, a double-minded man receives nothing from the Lord. That's not to say anything to you personally. It's actually talking to me, because I hear you on that. I feel you on that. I see you on that, and I know what you're talking about. So it is you that will bring healing to yourself, because you are the I am. Because He has given you all authority to step on serpents and drink poison, and it won't hurt you. And He has given us dominion in the earth. And we are made in the same express image of God. We are part of the Yod He Vav He. And so it is a process and a journey that we come to understanding who we are in Him. In Him you live and move and have your being. He never said, in Him you do. In Him you live and have your being. So in your awareness of who you are, and in the awareness of what it is your heart's desire is, and that is healing, those two things agree. So it's a journey, it's a learning process, it's a beautiful understanding of the I am in us, of living in who God is, and being the expression of God, not only to the world, but to ourselves and to our own bodies. So I believe that you're right. It is you, from the divine source that is in you. The kingdom of heaven is in you. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. And I think I've gone through a process where I felt that, you know, God is somewhere else and God is external. And I've understood that God is inside me, and for that to shine through me is then when I experience healing, because I am healed. I was healed. I am healing. I am divine health. I am that. I am that I am. So, so I keep repeating it, but it's one of those things I keep repeating to myself because it's a dismantling or a deconstruction of what I've been normally taught, that I'm supposed to sit at the Father's foot at the throne and beg Him. And I've come to understand that is not the way. And I've also come to understand that because I am in Him and He is in me, then I already have what it is my heart's desire is. I have to twist my thinking around to that instead of trying to fit what I know doesn't resonate with my heart, because I know it doesn't resonate, because I know it hasn't happened in my body. I don't have it. It's not manifest, right? So I have to twist my thinking around to understand that I already have it. I just have to release it. I already have it. I already am health. So that's the journey. And it's a beautiful one because it awakens you to the truth. I am the way, the truth, and the life, right? That means you have the way, you have the truth, and you have the life, and you are the health. So it's a whole different way than what we've been, you know, religiously taught. And that's the beautiful thing. So in an intention, I see myself doing all the things that I want to do. and only that, in spite of anything, in spite of pain, in spite of, what might be considered, someone else might consider a limitation. But the other thing I have come to realize lately is that it is my secret desire. I don't share it with anybody else, because anybody else, what they often do is echo my fear. And fear is the only thing that holds you back.
Mhm.
I mean, look around today, fear holds us back. So it's love for ourselves and love for who we are and how we are in Him that that we're able to transcend
Mhm.
what it is we're feeling or thinking, or the old kind of way. We can't put old wine in a new wineskin. We got to put the new wine in the new wineskin. If we want to be the new, out with the old, in with the new. So we have to change our thinking and dismantle our old beliefs that no longer serve us, that aren't true. Might be an element of truth there, but it's not the truth. We want the truth. And that will be the thing that brings us into this glorious and wonderful and amazing, and the certainty of the manifestation that is our heart's desire.
Yeah.
Because we've seen it, we feel it, we know it, we see it, we live it, we breathe it, we walk it every day.
So is that what you mean by I have to release it? Is that by what you just said? Like all those things
you have to see it. I believe that you need to see that you have the ability to respond. So meaning that you take the responsibility to see your heart's desire alive in you, and you're walking in it.
Mhm.
That's what I mean.
Mhm.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, and I think the big mistake I probably made was when the last part you said, you just share it with you don't share it with anyone else, because I guess when I first found out about it, I got so excited. I thought, and so then I would go to my family members and my children and say, and I bought them all the book, and and everybody looked at me like I was crazy, and then and then it just all backfired on me, I guess, because I was the only one that actually seen it as it was. And then they all gave me that information, like you said, like, what do you're crazy or whatever,
Right.
so
They mirror your fear because they don't know where you're coming from, and you don't know where you're coming from either. Really, you have this great revelation and you understand it, and wow, isn't this is going to be great? But you haven't done it yet. You haven't been there. And I know this really wise person. Her name is Helen, and she's my friend. And she always says she never talks about anything until she's living it. And so I hear you on that, because I get this idea, oh my goodness, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then I hobble in somewhere because I can't walk. And then those people look at me and say, oh yeah, that's really good. This intention thing's really working well for you, and you think, yeah, I was stupid. I should just shut up. And I should just keep this to myself and walk the talk before I talk the walk. So that my friend Helen, I don't know if any of you know her, but she is amazing, and that's what she told me, and it rings in my ears every darn day. But it's a great reminder.
Em has a couple of comments about what we're discussing. Can I read those out?
Thank you. Thanks, Gina. That was awesome. Yes, Kathy, thank you.
Okay. Em says, Brenda, no self-judgment. Loving myself first without judgment leads to my ability to receive his love, which is actually freely given. He is in me and I am in him. We are one. I no longer need to ask him to do something for me. He resides within me and therefore I am. And then she wrote, throughout the past 4 or 5 years, she struggled periodically with letting go of religious dogma, which sweeps her back into the rules and regulations or traditions of any given denomination. Before her conversion, or even after that, she's become more conscious of the words that she speaks, so she won't fall back into the trap of rules and regulations. Thanks for that, Anne.
That was awesome. That's I'm just so blessed listening to your words, Gigi, what you're sharing, and of course, Gina and I have lived life from the inside out for decades, actually, and this journey is probably, in one way, the most difficult, because it is a deconstructing to move forward, and sometimes we feel like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or but you have a tribe here, Brenda, that's walking it with you. And I picked on Gina because I knew that she could share her heart and life with your question. But I know in this tribe, there's many of us that hold you in that as well. So if you'll be patient with you, I believe this will unpack and unlock as we go, as we continue. And I just want to encourage you not to quit, not because I know that we have times where we just say, okay, get me off this train. It's a lot better when I'm just walking somewhere else. We love you. All right, Elizabeth, Bonita, and then Susan. Elizabeth.
Oh my gosh. So I feel so expanded right now from all of that. Gigi, that was amazing. It's like we're in this eternal moment right now, which we always are when we're together, but this is so huge what we're learning, and so grateful. But my question, Helen, I've asked you this before, but I want to ask again just for clarification. When we're in a group and we're intending, and I believe now we're really seeing more, perceiving more of just standing inside of him and seeing that it is finished. But what if one of us doesn't? Do the others go ahead and release what they see, or we stop to see what the deal is? I think you said before that you just stop right there because unity is so important, but will you talk about that?
Well, yeah, for us now, remember, we are a limited experience here. We've been doing it for a few years now, but we're learning all the time as we're doing. And for us, unity is important, because what we realize is sometimes people will have a need or a desire that is really, carries a lot of passion, carries a lot of weight, with our emotions too. But the reality is, if we can't together, have understanding of what it is that we're writing a vision for, that would be like standing, in Habakkuk 2, of standing on the rampart to see what's going on. So we're standing in a high place together, but we're not all seeing the same thing. And so until we can get our vision focused on what God wants us to see, because Jesus only did what he saw the Father do, what he saw the Father do, right? Then maybe it's not our mandate to do this intention. Now, in a group, what I love about our group is, if someone doesn't understand, they say so. And no one gets to feel less than a genius in the group. That's it. That's all. We all have abilities and gifts that we bring. And if we don't understand, we take time to help each other to get to a place of understanding. And that understanding brings us into unity. So for us, it is more exciting. It works better to be in that unity. So if, and don't be hard on yourselves, you know, sometimes you just have to roll with something and know that there's grace that covers you. Absolutely. But unity for us is important. Believing, to be able to write like last night, we wrote an intention that, you know what, I'll just share it with you. That we wrote it in our language, how the five of us in the room would understand the motivation. So we'll call this person John. The intention is that John sees light through darkness, and I can't read my writing here, and awakens to the hope of his own Christ consciousness. Now, that might not mean a thing. That might not sound even like an intention to some of us here. But to us, we totally understand it. It was a language that we put to the letter that we had read that broke our heart. And we were able to hold that with the Father and have him show us what he's doing. When you are part of a group, one of the best things that we ever did was to share our lives together, to spend time hearing each other's history. We even, with our in the beginning of 2020, with our group, we took time and took a Tuesday night per person sort of thing, and shared our personal testimonies. We got to know each other. One of that is priceless beyond words, to know the people that you are having the intention time with. And it's one of the things that bring you together, because when you share your testimony, if you're transparent, you'll share some of the good, the bad, the ugly. You know, it's kind of fun to realize that we can laugh a lot together, and it helps getting understanding to where we are, because sometimes when we're in this type of a group, we're really spiritual. We want to get this, and we want the testimonies, and this is serious stuff. But we're people, we're sons of God in it, that are in this process of deconstruction. Like, I love that when Gina says that, because we're deconstructing so much. And sometimes it's not that we don't even agree with each other or believe something. We just got tripped up by a word we hadn't put into the sentence before, something like that. So give each other grace. Find out who you are in the group, how important what is. Share some of your histories, your joys, your pains, your achievements, your sorrows, and it'll help people to become more cohesive and understanding, and you'll have less trouble finding the agreement for things, because you'll understand each other. I don't know if that helps, or whether I've just used a lot of words around it.
No, that helps so much.
Oh.
So much. Yeah. I feel the importance of that, of our hearts just being one, knowing each other and having that bond.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
And then you can do what we do, and we practice going to each other's houses without leaving home. So we make it fun, you know.
That's good.
All right. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Can you guys practice going to Minnesota, to my house?
Yeah, we can. We can. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're unlimited. Okay, Benita.
You're on mute.
Okay, yeah. So I had three things. So I came in a little bit late, so I feel, anyway, I just heard what both Susan was talking about and what Brenda was talking about. And I felt like, just as Susan, as you were talking, I had a friend who did the same thing with the IVF and all that twice, was getting really discouraged. And when you want a baby, that's all you want. And can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so anyway, she finally got to the point where she just said, you know what? She said, Father, you know what? If you're enough. And she really got to that point. And then she got pregnant. And then she had a miracle child. Like, she didn't even menstruate. Like, she had weird things with her body. And like, it was just, and she had this beautiful miracle child. And anyway, that's that story. So, and then with Brenda, I just feel like, is it Brenda? Yeah, Brenda. And I just felt like when you were talking, I just kept thinking about that chiropractor guy that Helen, you were talking about, who only thought about himself every single day when he broke his back off his bike and he was in bed and he had that broken spine and everything. And he just kept imagining his spine, how it should be and whole and all that. And just kept his mind on that only. And I just felt like maybe even, I mean, I don't know if this is even right or not, but I was just thinking, even when sometimes I'll get up and I'll go, oh, my sore. But instead of saying that, I feel like I shouldn't even say that like out loud. I should just say, thank you, Lord, for my perfect knees. You know, I feel like that's what I need to say. Like, just don't even say the opposite. Just say what you're intending on for your body. Just say, thank you for my perfect knees. And I mean, I've even noticed, like, in myself, if I start having a cough or start having something, and if I let fear get in and think, oh no, what if, like, I literally will start getting worse by the second until I say, no, I'm not having this. And then it like leaves. I mean, it's like, it's that fast. Like the fear, and I can feel it like right in the middle of my gut, like right where the rivers of living water are supposed to be flowing, right there in the middle where my rib cage comes, like that triangle, that's where it sits. And I'm like, so it's either the rivers of living water are flowing out or the fear is like stopping everything. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. So I don't know if that helps, but, and then the third thing is I also need an intention. I need to like try this. I need to know what you guys are doing. I don't know what I'm doing or what you're doing. I need to have experience doing this. Does anybody live in Victoria, BC or around close?
I think the closest is.
I live in Vancouver.
Ah, hi.
Hi. Sorry, I'm at work, so I'm in the background here.
Okay.
So Benita, meet Claudia. Claudia,
Hi.
when we first started teaching on intention, ran with intention. Is it possible for you to share, Claudia, your intention for your mother the first time you were like a tiger with a tail there?
Oh, no. I think I shared it with this group a few times. Yeah, but sorry, I'm just gonna go somewhere where nobody is here. I'm surrounded with the microscopes here and stuff. Am I sideways or I'm straight? Sorry, I'm just on the
You're
phone.
straight.
I'm straight, okay. I don't like to be sideways. Yes, so what happened, I listened to Helen's talk after. Somebody mentioned it. I'm a part of Empath Room or Kingdom Talks. I see Laura is here from South Africa also. And then there was one girl, she mentioned Helen's talk. So then I went to find it, and it was on the Heart of the Bride. And I listened to it, and it was just pure coincidence. And then my mom started to feel sick kind of the same day or the day after. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. I've never done anything like this. And I usually like to experiment with different things. So I did, I just follow exactly the instructions that Helen gave. I wrote it down, and I also wrote, you had the slides there with how to create the intention. And so I wrote it down, and I just put my mom's name, and also saying that she will be completely and fully healed from these symptoms. And also you said at the end, we should be surrounded by our answer and see her. So I was imagining her. So my sight is not very good, but I was imagining her completely healed and almost like a dancing and skipping, even though she's in her 70s. And I was trying to hold on to that. But my mom, when she called me, she told me she was not feeling well, but she didn't quite describe how bad she was. And then, so I just went into that place, and I did that all by myself. I didn't know even who to ask, because I didn't know Helen. I was like, I just heard it. And then, so then I talked to my mom next day, and then she told me, she said, I don't know what I'm supposed to be, how to explain this, actually what happened overnight. So she said she felt terrible, and she thought this was it for her, because she still thinks that was COVID. But my mom also has asthma and so many other things so she had her bag packed. She was saying goodbye to my dad, who passed away a few years before that. Kind of, she was really saying goodbye to this world, but not really wanting to tell me how bad she was doing. And then she said she went to bed, and she had a real hard time breathing, and she was taking these shallow breaths, and she felt like that was it. She could not take a breath anymore, and she was falling asleep. And then she said that all of a sudden something descended on her chest and started to create almost like a sewing pattern up and down her chest, going like a sewing machine, like tick, 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 tick. She could also hear it. And she was awake like through this whole time, like just trying to figure out what the heck is going on, right? And then it was just going up and down her chest. And then it descended, like it left off. But when it left off, it also pulled out like stuff out of her. She felt it was like roots that were going all the way down, almost from her feet, were just coming out. And then she sat up like on her bed, and she just had no clue what happened. She was breathing fine. Everything was just fine, and like way better than like ever that she remembered. And so she was trying to explain to me. She said, I had no idea what is this. I don't believe in God. And she kept saying, like, you know that I don't. It's like, I know, Mom, I do know that. And then she said, but I have no explanation. This is total miracle out of, I don't even know where. So that was kind of her experience. But meantime, like I was here in Vancouver. My mom is in Slovakia, in former Czechoslovakia. So I was just in my chair in the corner doing this intention for maybe like 3 minutes, not even 10. And when I finished, I was like, okay, I didn't know what else to do. I just handed it off to the Father, and I waited. And that's kind of what it was. Then I told my mom, I said, Mom, you know what? I was praying for you, but in a different way than I usually did. And this time it worked, like probably, I don't know, just a few times in my life. And this was like really a big deal. Yeah. And then we actually tried it a few times with our empath group. And whenever we tried it, like we tried it maybe 3 more times after I shared this experience, I was like, this is pretty cool. And it worked. Like there was our friend, like the leader who is Sandy, her mom, she got like, first she wasn't sure if it was working. So we did the intention. Her mom next day, actually, she was feeling really bad. The next day, she was walking around doing all her chores. And Sandy's like, Mom, what happened? She said, oh, I don't know. I'm just all of a sudden feeling good. And it was maybe 4 of us doing this. And then she started to feel not so good. So Sandy's texting me, what are we supposed to do? I was like, I don't know, but I know we're not supposed to be repeating this. So let's just imagine, and we handed it over and let it just see it in there, in the Father's heart. and he's supposed to deal with that now. We already did our job. At least that was my understanding. And then so we just left it there, and she's fine. And then we did it again, like for another person, and she had COVID, and she recovered in 2 days too. So I'm just learning how it works, and I think it's an amazing tool to have. So thank you, Helen, so much. I also jumped in later, but I'm gonna definitely listen to recording. I just finished the lab. Sorry for talking too much.
No, that was, Claudia, that was exceptional. To have testimonies, that's just the real deal. And I remember when you told me about your mom, and that your mom was a scientist and not a believer, that just absolutely rang every bell in me. It was so exciting.
It was exciting for me too, because she's like, God and her don't go together.
Yeah. Well, what she doesn't know is God is in her, whether she
That's right.
likes it or not. Yeah. Benita, the best I can do is to point you to maybe the power of thought that is online to get a bit of a grid for what intention entails, and then we'll see about putting people together.
Okay.
But
The power of thought that's the name of the lesson?
Yeah.
Power of thought.
Power of thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and Claudia, I'm just going to send you my phone number in case you come to Victoria. I can't hear you.
Yeah, my son is at UVic.
Oh,
First
so
year.
you come here often?
No, not yet. I've been there only once, but yeah.
Yeah, well, you can
I
come
would
here.
like to.
Yeah, you
Awesome.
can. Yeah, and we have a big house you can stay, and 3 Airbnbs. So.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, we're gonna need
Okay.
connection like that.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Okay.
fabulous. That's totally fabulous.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And I don't care how many times we think we hear something, it's encouraging every time. And I know that there's a number on here that hadn't heard that. So bless you and thank you for sharing. That's awesome. Susan, thank you for being patient. There you are.
Me, Susan?
Susan
Oh,
is.
there were 2 Susans.
Yeah, Susan
Yeah.
is first.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say to these gals, we live within probably 5 minutes of each other, the 4 of us, but we have done it on Zoom since COVID. And so it doesn't matter if you live in Ontario and you live in Victoria, if you get a group together and do it on Zoom, it's fantastic. Like it works really well with the 4 of us.
Yeah, totally. And like tonight, we're crossing timelines. If you can choose timeline or times that work. So that's great encouragement, Susan. Thank you. Susan Sanowski.
Yeah, I am so encouraged. I can't tell you. If I could turn cartwheels, I would. I just wanted to share a testimony that since the whole COVID pandemic has started, I've had this faith that God will absolutely take care of me and has taken care of me my whole existence and will continue. And at no time did I ever believe or think or have that I knew of have a wavering of my faith. But I took my grandkids to a big goat show last weekend, and we all came home with COVID. So I just immediately, as soon as I had that positive test, I went, well, Lord, this is just another wave of testimony, another layer. And I immediately saw everything, like, and wrapped myself in the envelope of the completely healed, restored body. I had the positive test at 11 o'clock on Monday morning. I didn't have any symptoms. By dinner time on Monday night, I wasn't feeling great. Yesterday, I was feeling pretty crummy, but all day long, every time a symptom would come, I would see myself completely through it. And as I was envisioning that, I felt like those symptoms were just hitting a wall and bouncing off and hitting a wall and bouncing off. And last night, when I went upstairs, I just went to a complete deep ascension rest. I ascended, I had music on, and I ascended, stayed up for about 2 hours, and then came back down, and I just rested. And this morning I woke up, I felt a little slow getting started, but by noontime today, all that was left was a little bit of the cough, and I'm completely healed. And I know that the last little bit of the cough is on its way. So I just want to encourage you about intending for yourself, because I always felt like, well, I should intend for everybody else first. And then if there's any left over, I can have mine. But it just so works to say, wow, that one of the things when I was just before I started to ascend, when I was really, really just loving Jesus, he said, and I want you to love you just the same way I do. And when I felt that love for me that he felt, it just boosted me to that next level. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Susan, that's outstanding. And that's exactly how we're to be living, intentionally, on purpose. And that's living it. We live in divine health. We don't live, get sick, get well, get sick. You are living in divine health. And that's so incredible. So incredible. I love it. So, yeah, that's good. Oh my gosh. Laura.
Oh, that was so amazing, Susan. I just popped on to say something after you spoke now, because it's just like really got me thinking about this whole intention and the desire to be part of this group, and just learn more and practice more. And it's like the Father's been showing me that I've been practicing this, but I just didn't know the terminology really, or the mechanics of it, which is so awesome, he's like bringing me back to last year. I also had the symptoms. I woke up the day before Christmas, and my mom had COVID the week before, and she had recovered from it, and I had been with her. And anyway, I got up that morning, and we were supposed to have Christmas dinner together as a family, and I just didn't want to spoil it for anybody. So I got my husband up at 4 a.m. in the morning with all these symptoms that I had, and asked him to pray for me. And as we were just sitting having communion, he said to me, Laura, you know that everyone loves you, right? And I was like, I was taken aback, because it's not what we were praying about. And he says, but do you love you? And I was totally felt like the Father was speaking to me, like, do you love you? And the whole day I was like in and out of this bubble. I felt like I was in this bubble with him. And I was just so aware of the fact that he was in me and that I was in him. And at 4 o'clock that afternoon, so it was within a 12-hour period, all the symptoms left, like immediately. And it's the first time ever that happened, with any other kind of prayer. So like I'm starting to see how that connects now with what we're talking about today. And so, yeah, thank you so much. That testimony is like so exciting, as well as everyone else's, I must say, and also all the process stories, of getting our minds renewed. And when you said, Helen, about there's this reverse, we've been thinking in one direction for so long, and now it's kind of like, to pray for something. Now we're praying from it. It's like that whole reverse. Just the other day, I've just started to journal again. And I wrote this down, and I was like thinking, wow, this is so amazing. I was just speaking about my year, and the Lord was just speaking to me about some things. And I was thinking, I won't read everything, but just this, I started to write like this. I said, thank you that my sight is full of light. There is clarity and freedom. And then I wrote, it's like the switch on a fan to spin the blades in reverse is corrected, so the air can more correctly flow. So there's a switch in my brain that has been reset to function correctly in alignment with you. I feel your favor on this. I actually even feel like somehow there is an overflow starting to happen, like a dam that is releasing its overflow. I actually saw this on our trip just the weekend previous. There's a dam where we were, and it was overflowing. The water wasn't just flowing out the sluice gates, it was flowing over the top of the wall, and it was making this amazing like double waterfall. And I just said, I feel an expansion on the inside of me. And you know, it was about a year ago, in the place of being with the Father, he gave me something in my hand, and I looked at it, was a pen, and it was like a quill pen, and it had like eyes all in the feathers. And it made me wonder, and I thought, I wonder if this is like a feather from one of the living beings, you know, like that has the eyes all in it. That's before the Father's face, can see him, like, you know, this whole thing about being in his presence, and I'm seeing what he's seeing, and this, that we can all have that. We can all, when we write that intention, it's we're seeing with the eyes that he's seeing us in, and it's weird to kind of say the words. I can just give you the picture. But there's the pen that we write with that can see. So I kind of feel like just to connect with, and that's just my way of understanding. Anyway, thank you so much for this. I really enjoyed this. So it's just amazing.
Well, that's so great. You know what? Thank you for sharing. And I love the sharing of your intimate conversation with the Lord. That seems very, it's just really touched my heart. He sounds like your best friend. So lovely, so lovely. Yeah. Elizabeth says, I love the pen. I did too. I saw that as you were saying. Thank you. What a blessing. Em.
Hi, I know this is reiterating what Kathy had already read, but the whole issue about loving myself first. I accepted the Lord into my life when I was in my late 20s. I am soon going to be 67. It wasn't until the last 3 or 4 months that I actually could say that I loved myself. And when I had that experience, I mean, I could feel love for everybody else. Throughout the years, I felt love for everybody else, and it was so overwhelming, and almost, you know, English language does not give you the capability to express the kind of love that I was feeling for other people when I was praying for them, laying on of hands, whatever you want to call it. But I never loved myself. I could not feel that love. When the first time that I actually loved myself in the last 3 or 4 months, it was like I could actually feel God within me for the first time in all these years. And so it was phenomenal. And there are times that I sometimes forget, and I set myself aside, or I stand on the sidelines and not feel that. And that's when I am judging myself. And that's why my message to Brenda was, you know, like we need to live in that life where we can love ourselves so that we can love other people, but also to not judge ourselves, because God loves us. So no judgment, love yourself, so that when you can receive God's love, and out of that overflow, you can share love and love bomb other people. love bombing those individuals that are totally against the new way that you are thinking and doing and being, will change them. I have a friend that's what she's done with her mother, because her mother it's been a difficult life for her, and it's amazing. She said, I didn't go to visit mom at Christmas time because of the way, but she said, I kept on sending love. And when I went there at New Year's, there was a difference in the household. Well, there was a difference with her, but the love bombing, I call it love bombing, spreading that love and, just putting that out there, just totally changed everything. It's like I saw a vision of a thick, almost like a shell over top of this one individual's house. It was like a thick plexiglass almost. And when I shared with my friend, just love on her, no judgment. Don't be worried about what's going on. I mean, she's upset. She's on her own journey, but just love on her. And the next time we spoke, she asked me, well, do you know what that vision you saw meant? And I said, and as I was talking with her, the Lord was revealing to me, I said, that thick plexiglass type dome that's over her home is getting thinner. And then all of a sudden it shattered. So between the two of us, as we were loving on this woman and her household, God shattered, broke apart. Now, I haven't heard more of the testimony of it, but loving yourself first is so key. And I keep going back to that. And I know that I have so much more to say, but I'm not going to say anymore because I'm just overwhelmed right now.
And
Anyways,
that's
love it.
amazing. That's so precious on so many levels. As the Lord's talking to me, as you're speaking to my heart. The scripture that we're to love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your might, all your soul, love your neighbor as yourself, is actually from the original Aramaic in reverse. It says to love yourself so that you can love God with all your heart and your neighbor as yourself. And we have that backwards because we think we should be putting ourselves at the end of the line. And the fact of the matter is, we are made in God's image. He made us. He would have died for me, for you, if you were the only one. That's how important we are as humans on this planet, carrying the essence and the nature and the love of God. And he doesn't want anything coming in between us and him. So when you were saying it's how important it is to love yourself, that's 100% right. And it isn't about ego, and it isn't about selfishness. It's about, the airlines figured it out. Put your oxygen mask on first before you help somebody else. Really? It's not a difficult concept, but we have trouble with it because we have been told that's prideful. And I want to just go on record as saying it's not prideful at all. It's disobedient if you don't love yourself. And I give you permission to love yourself because God loves you as if you're the only one ever in his life. So thank you for sharing that, Em. That's awesome. The other thing I want to say to what you said in the love bombing is, maybe that's a form of intention, that you purposefully love, set your heart on it, set your mind on just that one thing. And whether you speak it out or you think it out, you know what? It carries the same weight, just in case people don't know that you don't have to decree and declare with your voice. I know your voice has frequency. I know I don't know all of that actually, but I know the premise behind it. But I do know that our thoughts carry the same. Whether you speak out fear or think fear, the frequency is powerful. So when you love bomb, I love that. I think that's amazing. And it's how intention works. It has this effect that just cuts through everything. There's no distance when you set an intention. So when you set an intention to bomb somebody with love, it's a picture. It's so great, and it gets done. Gets the job done. Brilliant. Thank you. All right, Patricia.
So I'm so glad that I was online today. I got to listen to what you're saying, Helen. I have been on this journey the last couple of weeks of forging a romance relationship with Jesus. So I didn't know I was intending for that relationship until now. That is the power of intention. So last week, he said to me, go on Helen's group. I'm like, oh, I'd never thought of joining your group even. And I'm like, okay, I normally don't question him why. When he tells me something, I just do. So I started sharing with my sister, and I'm like, oh, Jesus wants me to join Helen's group. And she said, I was thinking of that too. And I'm like, okay. So they said a woman who's been helping me deal with stuff in my life and unloading baggage and all that. And each time she doesn't pray. You know, the traditional way that we're used to praying, but she'll say, oh yeah, I will intend for you. And I was kind of shy or embarrassed to ask him, what does that mean? You know, I will intend for you. And this has been going on for some time, where she'll just say, I will intend for you. And then another friend, she's like, how is it that Catherine doesn't pray? So subconsciously, I just started intending without knowing what that was. I'll just use your language. But I never thought of even to Google to say, what does that mean, intending for something? Because it just didn't have, I don't know, I can't explain it. Today, it's like, I'm blown away. I'm like, really? This is what she's been doing all this time. It's like the Lord is uprooting us from the tradition, from the way we know things. It's been a long journey of take off like today I saw the Lord taking me off a backpack. That was earlier before I came on. And I didn't understand what the backpack was that I was supposed to leave behind before I step in. So this is stepping into, I believe it's stepping into the new. I just left the old where every time you're contending or you are praying for this, you know, it's like, all this time, I'm like, so all this time, the Lord, we have been doing this thing wrong. That is why we could spend 6 hours, beginning of the year, 4 weeks, going on a prayer and fasting, but there's no answer. And I'm like, weeding ourselves for lack of knowledge. Because there are times where we've prayed and we've fasted while we were in the church and it worked. But as it took us out, it took me out, some of those tools, they seem not to work anymore. And it has pushed me to want to ask questions. So in this case, I was not asking questions. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to spend time with you. But in this case, I don't want a father or the friend relationship. I want more. I want to know your heart. I want to know who you are. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to think what you're thinking. I want to do what you're doing. I want to be one in marriage relationship with you. Which I don't share it a lot because people think it's weird. What do you mean? You are seeking, you are forging a romance, intimate relationship. It's not where I don't use the word friend when I'm talking to him anymore, because I don't want him to be my friend. I want him to be my husband, my lover, my one and only, in a way that I know him and he knows me. But I did not know. That was like, that's intention. I did not understand. Even when he said, I guess when he said to me, go to Helen, he was like, so I have an understanding of what I am doing. So I know how to move forward past where he has taken me behind. And I'm so glad, Helen, thank you so much. This has been an answer to so many questions that I've heard. I could go on forever, but thank you so much. I need to be in a group. So can you place me into something, into a group?
What is your time zone, Patricia?
Eastern. Yeah.
Well, I may just, okay, let's just take a minute. I know you have your hand up, Brenda, so I'm not ignoring that, but our time is coming too. So I'd like to just take a minute and ask on this call, how many people are looking for a group? From Hadassah to everyone. Okay, Kathy, can you look on the chat and see
how many people have asked to go on? Oh, I can.
So Patricia.
Yeah, I know Brenda does. I emailed you her phone number already.
Okay.
And Sharon has her hand up.
Sharon. Okay.
Yeah, Sharon. And Gigi's sister, I can't remember your name. Sorry.
Benita.
Brenda, and then
yeah,
Brenda.
it's Benita, and I'm Pacific time zone in Canada.
Right. East. Sharon, where are you?
Oh, I'm mountain time.
Mountain. Okay.
Yes, Alberta.
And Laura's in South Africa.
And Laura.
Brenda in Winnipeg.
Oh, Brenda is in Winnipeg. Okay.
And there, one Brenda's in Minnesota and the other Brenda's in Winnipeg.
Right.
Hadassah is in Pacific time.
Okay. Okay, awesome. I have a puppy interruption. Kathy, can you take over? She needs to go out and I don't. Sorry, I'll be back.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, Brenda. Just to put your unmute.
I was going to say to Emma, I loved everything you said. I appreciate it so much. It's shocking to think that, well, at night when I can't sleep in the middle of the night, I have a lot of kids and I have a lot of grandkids, and I will just send love bombs all night long. And I'm just weeping and crying because I love them so much. I have never, ever thought of myself and I've never, ever thought about loving myself. So I appreciated that very much.
Thanks, Brenda. So good. I also wanted, before Maggie shares, I just wanted to share, Jacqueline had said, she wanted to underscore what Claudia had said about when things appeared to be taking a turn in the wrong direction. That was her paraphrase. She said her paraphrase is that she said that she had heard not to attend again, but instead encouraged the others to go back and see it in the Father's heart. She says, so wise. We will all face this challenge and be tempted to re-intend, but what Claudia reported is perfect. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you. That, you know what, that's awesome. And it's also the scripture, when you've done all to stand, stand. Like just stand. It is difficult, but Habakkuk says the vision is for an appointed time. It says it will not tarry. We don't know the number of things that need to be put in place to get the answer to us in the way that he needs to. Like we have no idea of that. And part of that should be our rest, knowing that it's being looked after, right? We'll stay in love, we'll hold it. We're not going to judge. I know it's hard at times. I'm sure if we went around the room, everyone would have a waiting testimony of some kind, and how difficult it is at times, because really and truly we'd like a drive-through, you know, we'll order this and pick it up at the window, and it just, some life doesn't happen that way. But when you can also be encouraged, there are times like Giselle believing for a new house that gets handed to her in such a supernatural way. Let's not get bogged down and know that he is Lord of the impossible. All things are possible. Wow.
Helen, can you add Claudia to the list Pacific time?
Yeah.
As well as Maggie. She's in the UK.
And Maggie. Okay.
There was a question earlier on about when we had been reading out of John about the translation, that where you got that from.
Where did I get it from? I'd have to look at the source. It would have been, because it's a translation from Aramaic. It might just have been from online. I would have that reference somewhere, but it would take me a while to find it.
Would it be in your notes from the Power of Intention that is on the website? Would it be on there?
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. Yeah.
I did post that earlier in the notes.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for asking that, because those are our study points, right? Those are how we get our references, and they come from somewhere. I find it interesting too, when there are translations. For instance, in the Aramaic, I remember our 747 group, when we were meeting regularly, and I think it was Susan, our Susan here, Susan's iPad, it says, brought the translation from the Aramaic for the Lord's Prayer, and it was crazy good. It didn't resemble anything that the King James had put down, but you know, seeing those and doing comparisons are very inspiring, actually. You know, the word scripture means inspired writings, right? It's not just the Bible. Anyway, you guys are absolutely wonderful. You make my week. You're all in my heart. Thank you for sharing your lives, your situations. Thank you for your boldness, for your transparency. Thank you for your love. Thank you that you set your hearts together in direction that you'll to be one. And there's a lot of us, but that oneness just feels like a beautiful comforter around all of us, and can really feel it. Thank you for Patricia for daring to join us. You are deeply loved, and that was really special. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Gigi, for sharing your journey. I know that it isn't always easy, but I love that you raise above and live from above. and set your heart and mind on things above and not on things of the earth. And that it, and because our journeys are together, I have seen your pain, but I've seen your victories that are even bigger. So thank you. All right, we are in a school night, and it's 9. Thank you for being here. To next Wednesday, I feel the direction the Lord has said is to go and unpack some of the strategy that has been taught over the last year, and to start with meditation. So we're going to take a deeper dive into that subject, and hopefully, if you're interested, you'll join us. And I just know he's going to start unpacking some things, just like this this area of intention. And I think we are just on this diving board that we're going to begin to not be afraid of the high board and dive into some unknown. I love that we can do it together, and I love that there's so much experience and so much daring in this room that it's going to be absolutely super. So I love you. I am going to be in touch with all of the ones that have asked to be part of a group. I don't know how we're going to put that together, because here's the challenge. I believe smaller groups are better in a way, because you get to know each other, than putting together a larger group. And so the Lord's going to give us a strategy, and I'm going to take that into his heart, and I know that he'll be faithful to honor each of your desires, and we're going to go forward with that. So I love you, and may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord shine his face upon you and grant you his shalom. Amen. Amen. Amen.